Let's wrap up the NFC North. Chicago Bears. Very interesting offseason here for the Bears. Finished with 5 wins last year. Disappointing season, given that they started out hot, had Caleb Williams. It looked like they had a really nice infrastructure for him. They had some names at receiver, but the pass game, everything was inconsistent. We have Ben Johnson coming in, complete overhaul of the coaching staff. So Ben Johnson coming in as the head coach, coming over from the Detroit Lions, and they've got money to spend because you do have Caleb Williams, you have the rookie contract. Where do the Bears go this offseason?
The biggest priority has got to be the interior of that offensive line. Again, the Vikings would like to upgrade maybe the entire interior of their offensive line, but they're at least under contract. The Bears, literally, I think their starting interior is all out of contract. They actually, nobody on paper is currently there to take this team next year with Caleb Williams, your most important asset, playing behind this group. So the tackles are fine. Braxton Jones, Darnell Wright. Okay, cool. The interior is a mess and needs to be completely overhauled in an offseason. So free agency and the draft, we got to find 3 starters, I think.
We've mentioned Drew Dahlman as a center, Ryan Kelly at center. Kelly missed time last year, but prior to that, pretty durable overall. I think they got to grab one of those guys. Center was a massive issue for the Bears last year with Coleman Shelton. Do they try to bring back Tevin Jenkins as one of those options? The other potential thing, Braxton Jones, I've seen talk of him maybe moving into guard, the starting left tackle, and maybe upgrading left tackle. Even though I think Jones has done a pretty nice job there. The one spot that they somewhat solidified was Darnell Wright. Looked pretty good in his second year last year at right tackle. So I think literally all the other spots, they could go left tackle, move Braxton Jones inside, but either way, there's going to have to be a lot of moves on the O-line here.
And that might be the approach, simply because so many of the guards have major injury question marks about them, and centers as well. The biggest thing they need is, because you have to bring in 3 effectively between the draft and free agency, you want somebody is going to be there every game, start as much as possible. So that might be their biggest issue. Is I don't know which guy you can target that you're comfortable with being durable and out there every game. Again, unless you're able to win the Trey Smith sweepstakes, assuming he even hits the market from Kansas City, and you do that, you're in this world with a bunch of other teams with money to spend who are also needing guards. If you can win Trey Smith, great. That's one spot locked up. If you can't, maybe you need to get into the tackle market, grab one of those guys and move Braxton Jones inside, simply because it's better value, or you're more sure about the tackle market than you are about the guard market, who all have these injury concerns.
Could they go Cam Robinson maybe at left tackle, kick Braxton in at left guard, just pick up Trey Smith, just go Trey Smith and Cam Robinson? Now grab Mekhi Becton at right guard and Ryan Kelly at center. There we go.
Solved. With the money they have to spend, they should absolutely be one of the final couple of teams in the Trey Smith, battle. New England makes the most sense, right? They have by far the most cap space. They have an acute need on the offensive line. Frankly, if New England doesn't end up securing Trey Smith this free agent period, I think they failed. There's no reason they shouldn't win that bidding war if it comes to it. But the Bears are one of the few teams that can kind of go with them to fairly silly money and still make that happen.
So definitely have to attack that in free agency on the offensive line. I think the D-line depth is still something similar, to the last couple of years. They brought in Montez Sweat, Gervon Dexter's progressed, I think, as they've hoped, but they still have needs on the interior defensive line. Their run defense took a hit once Andrew Billings got hurt last year. They could use one of those big-bodied 340 to 360 pounders that are available in this draft. I think they also have the ability to maybe pair the Sweats together, right? Because they have the money. They got Montez Sweat. You bring in a Josh Sweat, have a double Sweat off the edge. That's in the world. That's in the right. That's in the world of
the edge.
It's in the realm of possibilities here, because their rebuilding effort. Remember, a couple of years ago when Ryan Poles took over, kind of the opposite of what the the Lions had done, where it was like trenches last, right? They just didn't get around to building the defensive line. They traded for Montez Sweat, drafted a couple interior defensive linemen. I think there's still work to do up front there on the defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, definitely depth. Offensive line, I think, is the big acute concern. I would definitely put them in the defensive line depth, marketplace. But like, if you could come out of this draft, or if you could come out of this offseason, maybe they get Trey Smith as their top option. Maybe they swing and miss there. But like picking 10 overall, depending on, there's enough teams out there, I think, that are scared of what Will Campbell is as a tackle, that he might be there at 10. You could get Will Campbell, move him to guard, or keep him at left tackle, move Jones into guard. Either way, you fix one of those spots. If you could get Trey Smith, Will Campbell, and then start cooking in the second and third round for the other needs, now you're in business.
Yeah, I like that. And then, you don't have to maybe spend as much money at on a Cam Robinson at left tackle, like I was saying earlier. So yeah, I think at 10 they're in a prime spot to get either the Will Campbells or Kelvin Banks of the world, or that just the next defensive lineman. We've mentioned James Pierce for a lot of teams, or Mike Green. Is that too high for Mike Green? I'd love to see them get one of those top pass rushes as well to pair opposite Montez Sweat. I like Austin Booker as the developmental prospect, but they just need more. They have to get out. They need some more juice up front. The other question I have with Ben Johnson and the way he's run things, right? I think he's been outstanding. 3 straight years watching his offense evolve for the Detroit Lions, but he started with that foundation of a great offensive line. I imagine Ryan Poles he's an O-line guy, right? I imagine that is going to be the focus for various reasons, where the Bears want to make sure that they address the offensive line first and foremost this offseason, as we've said.
Yeah, you couldn't be going from, 2 different, more disparate situations, from like the Lions, whose offensive line is the foundation of everything they want to do, to Chicago, who literally doesn't have an interior right now. Like, that has to be number 1, 2, and 3 on their priority list this offseason.
The other place to look, pass catcher, Keenan Allen was kind of a 1 year. Let's see how it goes for Caleb Williams. We have Roma Dunze last year, drafted pretty high, kind of have an inconsistent rookie season. DJ Moore had an inconsistent season. Caleb Williams had an inconsistent season throwing to them. How do they want to handle the pass catcher situation? Because again, on paper, it looked really nice, right? DJ Moore, young Roma Dunze on the outside, Keenan Allen as the dependable slot guy. Didn't exactly work out as intended for various reasons.
Yeah, and I think it still is a pretty good situation. I think you now do need that third wide receiver, though. I mean, 3 strong at wide receiver, Cole Kmet at tight end, but like 3 strong at wide receiver is a really good place to be, and I don't think you would want to lose that with Keenan Allen moving on. I think you just pick up, but this is like where you draft a guy, right, in the mid-round somewhere, hoping that he can be your third/slot option.
Now, the Bears still have a 2 from the Bryce Young trade from the Carolina Panthers. They still have a second-round pick left over from the Bryce Young trade. So they're drafting at 10, 39, and 41. So they have almost back-to-back picks there in the second round. Golden opportunity there. I do think the defensive O-line or D-line value is going to be there at 10. The opposite position, perhaps, or especially, if they go O-line first and then one of those defensive linemen, given the depth, maybe at 39. And I think the receiver value there in the second round could match up. I think the needs and value might match up really well here for the Bears. Receiver-wise, I'd love to see some speed, generally. I think Adunze can move and everything, but he's still more of a contested catch type of receiver. I would love to see some speed there. I don't know if there's any great speed receivers in the draft. Just saying generally, I'd love to see more of a vertical type threat here to complement those guys.
Isaiah Bond being one of those second-round picks, maybe, or even
Tez Johnson,
your third would be an amazing spot for them.
This is your Tez Johnson option. I think Jalen Knoll, he can move. We're sitting here right, we're doing it's combine time right now. It's Wednesday of the combine. The receivers are going to be working out in a couple of days here, so we'll get more information about the actual 40 times and everything. But I would just love to see, a little bit more juice added to this receiving core to complement DJ Moore and Roma Dunze.
I also wonder what his stock is going to be coming off an injury, but Colorado State's Torrey Horton was a guy I loved last year looking at tape. I haven't heard his name mentioned yet this season, I think, given that injury, but like that's a guy I'd be really intrigued in the mid-rounds.
All right, man. Anything else on the Bears? I think just depth generally on the defensive side of the ball. I remember Jaquan Brisker looked like he was off to a promising start to his career. He had the concussion issues last year. We didn't see him past October. I don't know if they need to address safety perhaps, but it's kind of similar to the Packers where we'll see what happens with TJ Edwards and releases and all that. But there's not a whole lot of starting spots or places to replace on the defensive side of the ball. But you just want to add some depth and some more impact players as much as possible.
Yeah, cornerback is a little bit of a question given Tyreek Stevenson winding himself in the doghouse with the the Hail Mary mess and subsequent things. But it's not an acute like desperate need. You're right. Like just generally across the board, I think defensive depth is an area they could focus on. But like we said, number 1, 2, and 3, interior offensive line. Find yourself a wide receiver 3 so you're good, and then add some depth.
All right, man. Have we fixed the Chicago Bears?
Yeah,
fixed. I mean, and then the bottom line is Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams working together, right? There's nothing we could do to fix that other than say, I mean, I'm interested to see what this looks like. I thought if I was to describe Caleb Williams' rookie season, inconsistent certainly comes to mind, right? There was like pockets of 2 games where it looked great and pockets of 2 and 3 games where it looked terrible, and he was just kind of a roller coaster, but like in 2 and 3 game bunches. And when it looked good, I described it as natural talent being accentuated, right? When you saw him playing well, he had that game against the Vikings with 5 big time throws. And I'm not saying every week we need to see him, making these throws on the run and everything, but it has to feel natural. It has to feel like he's just playing the game and not overthinking. The times when it looked bad, to me, he was overthinking. He was like sitting there like, I got to sit in the pocket. I got to read it out. And it just wasn't flowing. And whatever Ben Johnson has to do, it's as much play call and design as it is making him feel comfortable, making like he could just be instinctual and play football. I think that's the biggest thing for Ben Johnson. Not the play calls, not the scheme, but just get the best instinctual football play out of Caleb Williams. I think that's when he's at his best. And that's what I'll be looking for early on in the season with that pairing.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, it's an exciting matchup. It's one of the spots where I think everyone would have wanted Ben Johnson to go in terms of like this guy is being talked up as, one of the preeminent offensive minds in the league the last couple of years. Look what he's done with Jared Goff. Well, now we get to see, okay, what can you do with Caleb Williams, who was being talked about as one of the most exciting prospects to come into the league in years, was sort of overshadowed by fellow rookies, guys like Jaden Daniels in year 1. Now what can you do to him?
All right, man. Fix the Bears. And we did it. We did a good job with that.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.